What's good with y'all, man? It's Phanto. I'm back with another video, bro. But check me out, bro, because I was reading I was listening to an audiobook, and it was called Psychology. I think it was like Psycho-cybernetics or something like that. And the guy who wrote it is a plastic surgeon, right? And he was talking about how you need to that the number one reason people don't achieve their goals is because their self-image, their self-portrait is not in line with like who they really are or what they truly want, right? Which that is to say like the ego, you know what I mean? What they portray is not what they truly, who they truly are. They're not authentic, right? And he had talked how oftentimes he would do like a surgery, right, with someone who's like insecure about something, not like a life-threatening thing, but like say they had a bump on their nose or a scar that they wanted gone. He would say that sometimes he would remove this insecurity, right, or fix their insecurity, and that they would look in the mirror afterwards and they would be like, what do you mean, like it's not gone, or like the scar is still there, the bump is gone but I still look the same, and all this stuff. And he said that it's a psychological thing, right? That their self portrait of themselves, that's what they believe, even more so than like their real, like who they truly are, right? That's to say, like they're living in the ego more than they're living in their true self. So much so that they're delusional, even if the bump is gone. In their head, it like has to still be there. But I thought about this, right? I think, and I didn't finish reading the book or listening to the book, but one thing that came to mind was that they took the easy way out, right? The bump is part of who they are, and they got rid of it. I thought of it like with someone who's overweight. If you are overweight and let's say you are insecure about that, or you're just an insecure person in general, this is a common thing. People will work out because they want to be confident, right? And that's a good, like if you were working out, there's no bad reason to work out. You get what I'm saying? But I had made a video about coming from a place of not really feeling the need to work out for other people or to be perceived as confident, but to be authentic to yourself, right? And I was thinking about how if someone's overweight and they get fat reduction surgery, right? Like let's say that their number one thing is that they feel overweight and that they are insecure about that. So now they lose weight, they get fat reduction surgery, and now they are skinny, maybe even muscular. Are they gonna feel confident because of that? It's the same way how he says he'll perform plastic surgery, remove somebody's insecurity, and they'll still think they have it because they didn't go through the correct portals of like suffering, of pain, of all that stuff in order to get it. It's the same with losing fat, right? You got fat reduction surgery, you took the easy way out. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying that's wrong, that's bad. But it's tough to say if you'll really feel confident in your body if you didn't go through the pains and sufferings to get to the body that you want. It's like I say, you can't work out and then after a year or after you start benching 300 or after you get a six-pack, all of a sudden now you're going to be confident. You know, it's not something that just is like a light switch. It's not something that is just found at the bench press or anything like that. A lot of the times these things are found in the progress, in the like they say, the journey is the reward. It's like that's oftentimes when you find these things. And that's why he had also said that there's a syndrome called like undeserving millionaire syndrome or something, where people in Silicon Valley, if they're like crypto millionaires or they made a bunch of money and didn't really put in any work, kind of got lucky, that they have like this symptom or like this depression because they feel like the life they have is undeserving. They don't have any sense of fulfillment, which is part of what I had said before about happiness. That happiness comes from fulfillment. That happiness comes from overcoming something. If you take the easy way out, you really overcame nothing. You got something. As a matter of fact, you almost put yourself in a worse position because you now have it and you feel like the opposite of fulfilled, but you still have it, so you have no chance to even fulfill that. But the reason I say that is because pleasure, right? I talk a lot about pleasure, masturbation, drugs, sex, all these things, sleeping in. It's like giving into, if you're Christian, they say the common man, right? To the body, or like to the ego. These are all things that are very like self-centered, focused around you. It's very selfish, right? Like, you have sex because you want to feel good. You jack off because you want to feel good. You sleep in because you want to do that, right? Which isn't really the real you. And I talked about how we all must suffer two pains: pain of discipline or the pain of regret. That is to say that you will inevitably suffer, bro. Inevitably. And I said it, like, you either suffer now or you suffer later. You can choose when you want to suffer. And one of the reasons I had given before of why I don't smoke weed is because I felt like I was covering up, or trying to like subdue like parts of myself that I was trying to look away from, and that it was like an unhealthy thing, right? Like, if I wanted, it doesn't seem sustainable if it's outside of myself, and if I have to continually do it in order to feel good, is it really something I want to keep doing? And I talk about how cravings lead to sufferings. Like, that's what the Buddha said, because if you are craving something, then it's outside of yourself, and eventually it will not be there. It's not sustainable. You know, you'll always be with yourself, but you won't always be in this material world. You won't always have material things that you can desire or whatever, right? But relating this to what I was saying in the book, right? It's like, if you take the easy way out, you are not feeling fulfillment. You are not feeling happiness. You feel somewhat depressed even. And I said how pleasure, it's not a process at all. Like, that is fulfillment. Fulfillment is a process. Achievement is the process of achieving something. I say how success is in the progress, how failure is progress. You have to do that. If you're scared of failure, then you'll be scared of progress, which is to say you'll never be successful. You'll be scared of success. Like, I always view it as like a stick. Like, one side is success, one side is failure. You can't just have success without going through the failure. Same with fulfillment. You can't have the fulfillment without going through the pains and the sufferings it takes to get there. But that's one part of the duality of life that oftentimes I think the ego, or the common man as they call it, it tries to escape that, right? It tries to have the good without the bad. And then we live in like a perpetual state of anxiety, where we don't feel like we deserve what we have, or we feel like we need to live up to something or do something else, because we're living in like a one-sided world. And I think about how in the Bible, bro, or anybody that was chosen in life, whether it was like Martin Luther King, Jesus, Gandhi, Buddha, they had the most suffering than your average human, like way more suffering, right? A lot of them were assassinated, a lot of them were tortured, were murdered, crucified, whatever it may be. And the reason being, I truly think, is because God looks at people like that and says, like, all right, you want the pain of discipline, you will suffer like now, so I can build you up so that you can have true growth. If he were to really, like, if God really hated you, bro, he would coddle you. You know what I'm saying? That would be what the devil would do. That would be given into what they say is the common man. That would be given into the egotistical way of thinking, because you're just giving into what you want to do, which is always going to be selfish. But it has no growth pattern. It has no sustainability, bro. And that was part of what he was saying in the book, is that people don't feel like they are, like when they get, plastic surgery done, and then they feel like, dang, like, I don't even look like I got anything done. But it's because this self-image of themselves, they didn't go through the pain and the suffering to really tear it down and replace it with something else. It's like they say with bad habits, you have to replace a bad habit. You can't just like get rid of a bad habit. It's very hard to get rid of a bad habit. It's the same with your self-image. It's the same with your ego. It's very hard to get rid of the ego if you aren't replacing it with something authentic. And this was a point that I think he was trying to make, and I haven't even, it's a really good book. Y'all should go read it. It's on YouTube. Hella stuff is on YouTube these days at our disposal, bro. But it's insane, man. I was thinking, I'm like, you know, it's very true. Like, the difficult path, or the path of righteousness, you could say the path of following God, the path of growth, is always going to be the most difficult path. Like, there's an analogy with trees. They tried to put a tree in a controlled environment where there was no like animals, there was no wind, there was no storms, and the tree was super floppy. It was super skinny. The roots didn't dig deep at all because it had no reason to. versus a tree out in the wilderness that is raining and storming. It grows very thick roots and very thick bark because it has to withstand what is the challenges of its environment. It's the same with our lives, bro. And I thought about that you can create your own version of suffering. For example, you can create your own version of, like, you don't need to go through all these traumatic things, but you can create some tension in your life or some things to overcome with NoFap, with working out, with discipline, waking up early, sobriety. All these things are active battles in your life that you could create, that you could overcome if you stop giving into the pleasures of life. And that would bring fulfillment. And that's what I say with like confidence and stuff like that. It's like, bro, getting fat removal or whatever isn't going to bring you confidence, because it was never really about the fat in the first place. It was about your self-image. It was about not feeling like you can do anything about it. Like, that is confidence. Confidence isn't something that feels like it needs to do something. It's not dependent on being skinny. Confidence isn't dependent on anything. If you were dependent on something, that means you need something to happen in order to get something back. That's not confidence at all. The energies would never synergize. So it's like, if you were to actually go to the gym and work out, you could be even still kind of chubby, but if you still felt like you had a routine of going to the gym and you were overcoming something in your life, you would be portraying yourself as more confident, bro. And that's the idea. It's like, you can't take the easy way out and expect to have everything to show for it as if it was like hard or whatever, like you actually overcame anything, because that's just not true. That's just not going to happen. It's the same with these crypto millionaires he was talking about in Silicon Valley. They didn't feel like they did any real work, or that the money they had was even something that they had earned. You know what I mean? And their self-image of themselves wasn't congruent with the reality they were living. Like, they had millions of dollars, but their self-image was that they were still a non-confident guy. Like, they didn't deserve to have that money. And we live in a world of congruency. If you're not congruent with the person you're portraying to be, then you're going to be in a state of anxiety. I talked about that, like the pedestal effect. If you're going to live up to something that isn't you, bro, then you're going to always be in a perpetual state of anxiety. And that's just the thing that it is. And then if you were to take the easy way out, that's whenever you live in a state of depression, bro. Because now there's an issue that was solved, but it wasn't solved the right way. And now you can't really do much about it. You have to look for other means to accomplish it or whatever. But that's the thing, man. It's you got to be different, bro. You can never conform to what society is telling you to do. They want to breed like weak people. They want to breed weak men, where we conform, where we watch porn, where we're on social media, where we are very like giving into our bodily pleasures, where we're eating like fast food, and where we're sleeping in, and where we're skipping days. Like, when we do have days off, we aren't productive with it, because there's no growth with that. Like, we live in a society that's they promote comfort, bro, on every single level. If you want any sort of pleasure, you can get it instantaneously. If you want sex, if you want to masturbate, if you want to watch porn, watch a movie, if you want to sleep, if you want fast food, if you want anything, any of these pleasures that are part of us, inside of us, dopamine releases, all this stuff, you can get it right away. And that was one thing that I was thinking about too, is with the pain of regret and the pain of discipline. It's like, bro, there's always a duality in every aspect of our life. In every choice that we make, there is a duality. There's going to be good from it. There's going to be bad from it. You never know. But like I say, like, you will suffer no matter what. No matter what choice you make, you will suffer. You will either feel pleasure in the moment. Pleasure is momentary. Pleasure is not sustainable. But you will regret it in the future, which is say it will be longer, bro. And that there's going to be a debt to pay. That's one of the things I gave when I said why I stopped smoking weed. Is because over time, bro, eventually, once you stop smoking weed, you have to pay the debtor. It's like I gave the example, like someone in your neighborhood, you owe them money. They're cool with you being there, but the second you say you're leaving town, now they want you to repay everything. That's why it's very, very difficult when you first start to try to do something, first start trying to work out, first start trying to stop smoking weed, smoking nicotine, all these things. It's very difficult. There's like a hump you have to get over, because you're repaying all of the old stuff, all the other times. It's like you're not waking up early for this one day. You're waking up early to repay for the hundreds of days that you didn't wake up early, because it was that ingrained in your way of life. But it can be the opposite too. Then once you're on the 100th day of waking up early, then it's going to be hard for you to not wake up early. You know what I mean? But that's like the duality of our choices, bro. It's like every choice you make, you are choosing either to suffer now or to suffer later, bro. And I said how kids nowadays, bro, in the life and society that we live nowadays, we're told that we're wasting our youth if we don't give in to pleasures right now. Like if we don't give into the pleasures, if we're not having a youth where we're having sex and drinking and wasting our days, it's like we're wasting our youth. When it should be flipped. Like if you were to speak to any investment banker or whatever, he would say the earlier you can invest, the better, right? Because then the money can build exponentially. It's the same with habits, it's the same with our lives, but for some reason in society it's been flipped to where they say, well, you're young, you can get away with all this stuff, right? You can get away with having sex, you can get away with drinking alcohol, you can get away with doing all these things. You need to do it now. But what is that reinforcing? Why do I need to do it now? Because your future is going to be mundane, because your future is not going to be worth living, and you're not going to have the freedom to do the things that you do right now, which is true. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why would you have the freedom to do what you are doing now in the future if you're wasting the time that you could build up that freedom to do in the future, bro? It's like you will never have it because you're wasting your days. But that's like that's the way to keep like the matrix moving, bro. That's the way to keep the people working. That's the way to have people have to pay back all these loans, have to have people going to work because they wasted the prime of their youth where they can make the most mistakes. They made mistakes that were future mistakes. You get what I'm saying? They weren't suffering in the moment. They were forcing their future self to suffer. And that's what they tell you. You're wasting your time now because your future is going to be very mundane because you're forcing yourself to have to face that in the future, bro. That's the pain of regret. You are consistently doing the pain of regret. If something feels good in the moment, I guarantee in the future it is not going to feel good. If something doesn't feel good in the moment, I guarantee in the future it will feel good because you overcame the bad feeling, bro. And that is fulfillment. That is sustainable, bro. That's what builds authenticity. That's what builds a man up. That's like a true foundation that you can build upon. It's like they say a house on a rock, house on the sand. Like you can actually build up a part of yourself if you have struggles in life. It's like the tree. You have to build up yourself in an environment or force yourself to overcome things, bro. That's the only way you can survive. But if we're giving into pleasures, then you're only forcing your old self to be weak. Because once those winds come in, you're fucked, bro. Like that's just the way it is. And then you have to rely on the system to bail you out, and then you're a slave, bro. That's truly what I think, man. But regardless, bro, it is what it is, man. That's just my 2 cents. It's Phanto, man. I'll catch y'all.